Welcome to the 700 Club. Let's go over to the CBN newsroom for today's top stories.
Thanks, Gordon. Hurricane Dorian, a monster Category 5 storm, punished the Bahamas overnight with wind gusts topping 200 miles per hour. The damage is described as catastrophic. Now forecasters are watching closely as the storm is expected to turn north. But as Dale Hurd reports, at the very least, Florida will see high winds and dangerous storm surge.
Complete devastation. Look at these cars, man.
This was some of the first video this morning from the Bahamas. The results of 185-mile-per-hour maximum sustained winds and gusts up to 220 miles per hour, tying the record for the most powerful Atlantic hurricane to ever make landfall. Silbert Mills is owner of the Bahamas Christian Network.
Like nothing I've never been through. It really feels like you are helpless, and that you have to depend solely on the mercies of the good Lord, who has full control over nature. And the elements of nature we can never understand.
The Bahamian Prime Minister called Sunday the saddest and worst day, tweeting, "We are facing a hurricane that we have never seen in the Bahamas. Please pray for us." And the strongest hurricane on record to strike the region is now inching towards the Florida coastline. President Trump visiting FEMA headquarters Sunday.
A Category 5 is something that I don't know that I've ever even heard the term, other than I know it's there. That's the ultimate, and that's what we have, unfortunately.
The slow-moving hurricane is expected to turn north and begin a week-long torrent of wind and rain on the southeast coast. The South Carolina governor has ordered evacuations along the coast, and both North and South Carolina have declared states of emergency. Acting FEMA Administrator Pete Gaynor said Americans need to pay attention to this storm.
Don't dismiss this storm. We are not out of it. Life-threatening, dangerous surge, water, wind is coming your way. Take the time now to prepare you and your family.
Florida Senator Rick Scott says his worry is that Floridians will think they're off the hook.
We're going to get storm surge. We're going to get a lot of rain. The closer it gets to Florida or into Florida, we're going to get more rain that can cause flooding. So take it seriously. Over-prepare, don't under-prepare.
Some people are heeding the warning, beginning to evacuate their homes and stocking up on gas and supplies of food and water. The storm is expected to stay about 40 to 50 miles off the Florida coast, but forecasters say a slight shift in track could bring it on shore. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Florida officials are taking no chances with this powerful storm moving up their coast. They're calling on residents to be prepared, and they're making sure resources are in place when Dorian passes. CBN senior correspondent Eric Phillips is in Daytona Beach, where the power company is working as fast as they can to stay ahead of the storm.
Florida Power and Light put out the call for help, and this army of utilities you see here is who responded. 16,000 men and women from 34 states, all here to help put the pieces back together after the monstrous storm called Dorian passes through. Utility trucks roll into Daytona Motor Speedway in droves, power officials say, even if Florida's East Coast dodges Dorian's delivery of disaster.
There will be outages.
And they're ready after putting out a big call. Workers flowing in to be farmed out.
This site behind us is one of 20 that we've identified throughout the state that allow us to pre-position crews in strategic locations where we anticipate some of the hardest hit areas to be able to deploy these crews as soon as it's safe to do so following the storm to get right to work restoring power for our customers.
And Lord God, we thank you that storm is continuing to move out of this place, away from us in Jesus' name.
Worshippers at Calvary Christian Church in Ormond Beach are praising God for shifting the storm a couple of days ago, lessening the threat here, though they'd stockpiled supplies in a local warehouse just in case. With forecasters still tracking a few different paths for the storm, the faithful are looking for another move of God to influence Dorian's decision.
You know, we just pray and believe and speak and declare that our God is God over the winds and the waves and the storms. And we believe that God has heard us.
Don't touch the Georgia or the Carolinas, just east.
Between the army of the Lord and the army on the ground, this area seems as prepped as possible. And if the effects of the storm are felt more severely elsewhere, they're also ready to help their neighboring states. In Daytona Beach, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
In other news, a West Texas community is grieving the loss of 7 people after a mass shooting that played out on the highways near Odessa this weekend. It began when police pulled over the suspect for a traffic stop. Police say he opened fire, wounding 1 officer and sped away. That began a chase and shooting spree. At one point, the suspect stealing a postal service truck and killing the driver. He finally crashed the van into a police car, leading to the final shootout as terrified people sought cover.
It's okay. It's okay. We're going to be okay.
Police say the suspect, 36-year-old Seth Ader, was killed at the scene. He reportedly lost his job earlier that day. Police here searching his home for clues to the attack. Among the wounded is a 17-month-old baby girl. She is expected to make a full recovery. Turning now to Israel, where tensions are high after Hezbollah in Lebanon fired several anti-tank missiles at IDF positions inside Israel. The IDF responded with artillery blasting Hezbollah positions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel fired 100 shells from the land and air. No casualties were reported on either side. The Hezbollah attack comes after Israel struck one of its facilities for building guided missiles. Chinese state media warns the end is coming for those attempting to disrupt Hong Kong and antagonize China. Protesters defied orders not to demonstrate over the weekend, and things turned violent. The demonstrators hurling fire bombs at Hong Kong police. Officers in riot gear responding by beating them with batons and using pepper spray on the crowds. China has warned that it could take action to quell the pro-democracy protests that have been going on for 13 weeks. The U.S. and China are moving forward with tariffs on each other's products. Sunday, a 15% tax on about $112 billion in Chinese imports went into effect. The goods include textiles, clothing, and shoes. The higher costs could be passed on to U.S. consumers. China put its own tariffs on U.S. goods, slapping a 5 to 10% tax on goods ranging from sweet corn, liver, marble, and bicycle tires. It's all part of an ongoing trade war between the two nations. Despite the tariffs, negotiations are expected to continue. With the 2020 presidential campaign well underway, some lawmakers are sounding the alarm that our election security still faces serious threats. One is Senator Mark Warner. He's also the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson spoke with him about why he believes our elections are still vulnerable.
Senator Mark Warner is concerned we haven't learned from 2016 when Russia effectively interfered in our election, and he worries about the integrity of our system going into 2020.
The Russians don't favor one party over another. They want to sow chaos, and I think they'll use some new tools in 2020.
We've already seen some of the tech most concerning to Warner. It's known as deep fake technology.
You can computer generate a voice, or you can put the image of your face on another body.
Warner believes each campaign should be extra cautious going into 2020.
I have my personal phone, iPad, screened on a regular basis.
And he says while we've taken some steps to address the problem, it's not enough.
I think we know that Russia didn't really throw all their resources at 2018. They're going to reserve that for the presidential election.
Warner's working to legislatively tackle the issue 3 ways. First,
there ought to be an obligation that if a foreign government tries to intervene in a presidential election, whoever they try to intervene on behalf of, there ought to be an obligation not to say thank you, but tell the FBI.
Second, Warner believes each voting machine should have a paper ballot backup in case interference is detected.
They do it on both ends of the political spectrum, advocate for the most extreme positions on the left and the right.
And third, he's calling for basic rules forcing Facebook, Twitter, and Google to crack down on fake bots.
Unless we can put some of this in the law to make sure on a going forward basis that we'll take these minimum protections, I'm not sure I can look Americans straight in the eye and say that we'll be fully secure in 2020.
Warner believes this should not be a partisan issue.
I'm not here to try to relitigate 2016.
But he has concerns about the White House's support.
I do worry that, at times the White House has been very reluctant to kind of acknowledge this is a problem. I do get concerned when President Trump interacts with President Putin of Russia and seems to kind of laugh off this issue.
Warner's bills to address election security are picking up bipartisan co-sponsors and support, and he believes they will be broadly supported if they make it to the Senate floor. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Vice President Mike Pence declared the Bible stays in a recent speech to an American Legion convention. Pence was referring to a lawsuit against a Bible on display at the Veterans Administration Medical Center in New Hampshire. Pence tweeted about the case and posted his speech saying VA hospitals won't be religion-free zones. That tweet receiving more than 59,000 likes by followers.